What if I told you that Ethiopia, yes, Ethiopia, is quietly becoming one of the most important diplomatic crossroads in the world right now? Within just days, high-level delegations from Israel, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia all visited Addis Ababa. That's not random, that's strategic. And at the center of it all, Isaac Herzog meeting with Abiy Ahmed and Taye Selassie in Addis Ababa. Today, we're breaking down what this visit means, why Ethiopia matters more than ever, and how this moment actually highlights Ethiopia's rising global influence. And trust me, this story is bigger than headlines. Israeli President Isaac Herzog arrived in Addis Ababa for a two-day state visit aimed at strengthening political and diplomatic ties. He was welcomed with an honor guard at the presidential palace. He met Ethiopia's leadership. The discussions? Cooperation, diplomacy, and shared interests. But one statement stood out. President Selassie made it clear, Ethiopia consistently supports a two-state solution where Israelis and Palestinians live side by side in peace. That's important. At a time of global polarization, Ethiopia positioned itself as a voice for balance, stability, and peaceful resolution. That's diplomatic maturity. The Ethiopia-Israeli relationship didn't start yesterday. According to tradition, it dates back to Queen Makeda of Sheba and King Solomon, a story that remains central to Ethiopian heritage. In modern history, Emperor Haile Selassie had direct ties with Jerusalem and even stayed there during Italy's invasion of Ethiopia in 1936. Then there's the story of Beta Israel, Ethiopian Jews, many of whom were airlifted to Israel in historic rescue missions like Operation Solomon in 1991. Today, roughly 160,000 Israelis are of Ethiopian descent. That community acts as a living bridge between the two nations. So this visit wasn't just political, it was deeply historical. Here's the bigger picture. Ethiopia is not just another African country. It's the second most populous nation in Africa, host of the African Union headquarters, a rapidly industrializing economy, and one of the most strategically located countries in the Horn of Africa. Even though Ethiopia is landlocked, it sits next to the Red Sea corridor, one of the most important global trade routes on Earth. And this is where geopolitics comes in. Israel recently recognized Somaliland, a self-declared state seeking broader international recognition. Ethiopia previously signed a port agreement with Somaliland to gain sea access, a critical long-term economic goal since losing coastline after Eritrea's independence in 1993. So yes, regional politics are complex, but here's what's important. Ethiopia is not being pushed around, Ethiopia is being courted. Turkey is engaging, Saudi Arabia is engaging, Israel is engaging. Why? Because Ethiopia matters. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has shown a consistent pattern in foreign policy, strategic balance. Ethiopia maintains ties with China, the United States, Gulf nations, Turkey, Israel, and neighboring African states. That's not accidental, that's diversification. In global politics, smaller nations often align fully with one bloc. Ethiopia doesn't. It hedges, it negotiates, it evaluates. And on the issue of Somaliland recognition, Addis Ababa has moved carefully, aware of regional sensitivities with Somalia, Egypt, and Eritrea. That's not weakness, that's calculated diplomacy. We also can't ignore the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or GERD, a project funded largely by Ethiopians themselves. For many citizens, GERD is more than infrastructure. It's sovereignty, it's pride, it's development. Despite external pressure from Egypt and Sudan, Ethiopia has stayed firm while continuing negotiations. That same strategic patience is visible in its broader foreign policy, including this visit from Israel's president. Let's zoom out. In 1 week, Ethiopia hosted Isaac Herzog, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and senior Saudi leadership. That's not coincidence, that's relevance. Ethiopia is increasingly seen as a stabilizing force and a gateway to the Horn of Africa. Even amid regional tensions, Addis Ababa remains a diplomatic hub. And here's something powerful. While global narratives often focus on conflict in Africa, this moment highlights influence, leverage, and agency. Ethiopia is not isolated, it's central. So, what does Isaac Herzog's visit really mean? It means Ethiopia is strategically important, it means global powers are paying attention, and it means Addis Ababa is no longer just the political capital of Ethiopia, it is becoming one of the most significant diplomatic stages in Africa. But let's go deeper. When the president of Israel chooses to visit Ethiopia at a time when the Horn of Africa is under intense geopolitical focus, that is not symbolic, that is strategic. And when that visit happens just days after high-level meetings with Turkey and Saudi Arabia, it sends a clear message. Ethiopia is not on the sidelines of global affairs. Ethiopia is at the table. For decades, narratives about Africa have too often centered on instability or dependency, but this moment shows something different. It shows agency, it shows negotiation power, it shows a country confident enough to engage with multiple global actors without surrendering its sovereignty. Addis Ababa is hosting conversations that matter about trade routes, regional security, development, diplomacy, and peace. And at the same time, Ethiopia is articulating its own independent position, including support for a two-state solution in the Middle East. That balance demonstrates political maturity. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and President Taye Atske Selassie are navigating a complicated regional landscape, tensions in the Red Sea, negotiations over the GERD, evolving alliances in the Gulf, and shifting security dynamics in the Horn of Africa. Yet, despite all of that, Ethiopia continues to engage, host, and influence, and that's not accidental. It reflects a broader transformation. Ethiopia is positioning itself as a diplomatic bridge, a regional stabilizer, an economic force in East Africa, and a nation determined to define its own future. In a world where smaller nations are often pressured to choose sides, Ethiopia is choosing something smarter: strategic balance, engagement over isolation, dialogue over escalation, long-term positioning over short-term reaction. That takes confidence, that takes vision, and yes, that takes power. So when we look back at this visit by Isaac Herzog, we may realize it wasn't just about bilateral relations. It was another signal that Ethiopia's voice carries weight, and in today's rapidly shifting global order, countries that can host conversations, manage complexity, and protect their sovereignty while building partnerships, those are the countries shaping the future. Ethiopia is making it clear it intends to be one of them.